Hi and welcome in the second tutorial about Charles Engine. And in it we will talk about variables and all the different ways you can use them to make your project more complex and more interactive. First we need a new scene. We have a new scene, blank scene right here, and in the same way as in the previous video, we will use the Tools menu on the top of the Unity and use Charles Engine, init new scene, and we initialize a new dialog scene. And this time we want to save it. So let's go to Scenes. It's up to you where you put it, but let's call it where test, like variable test, right? And to tinker with variables, we can use inside the dialogs, we need some dialogs. So let's go to dialogs object, let's select dialogs component by edit. Let's create a new tree. You should be all familiar with this right now, but if you're not, please refer back to our first episode and first tutorial where we are doing this step by step. But okay, let's add some notes here. Let's add a little fork with 3 answers. And mind that the answers have order in which they will show from top to bottom, so you can play around with them if you want, but we will just leave them at default. And let's add a video to each of them. These will represent the different questions you can ask our actors inside our sample dialogue. Again, all the videos we're using are already included in Charles Engine once you download it, so you can experiment yourself. The only thing that's missing now are videos. The engine shows us with the red color. So, hey, how are you? Okay, is this some kind of a prank? Okay, this sounds fun, I guess. And let's say so far so good, I think. Yeah, this is great. And we want to make sure that every answer points back to our fork because we want to be playing around with that. And why, I'll show you in a while. So let's right click and let's click connect, which will bring up the arrow, and let's drag the arrow, let's drag it to fork and right click again and make connection. And if I play around with a little bit, you can see that we have this new red arrow that will be pointing back to fork. And let's do the same thing for the rest of the videos. Okay, we have one here. Let's drag it around just like to make it more clear. Like the last video, right click, connect, and then fork, right click, make connection. And now every answer from the fork will return right back to it after playing the desired video. We want a loop video in the background of our fork. And now we just need to write something down, the questions or reactions we want to show to our player, so they'll be able to make them. So the first one, when it's a prank, should be I love FMV games. As much as I love donuts, which obviously sounds very suspicious, even though we all love games here, but come on, donuts are donuts, right? So we have the other one, which sounds fun. I want to make an F1 game with lots of variables, which is something we're doing right now, right? And the last one could be so far so good. I want to make FMV games, and I thought you could help me. Okay, let's go. And now we have it, and we can, very easily test it out in the play mode. And let's see if it works.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay, I'm better.
I've got your email.
And now comes the fork, and if I maximize it, we have 3 of them. Okay, I love lots of variables.
Oh, that sounds fun. What kind of a game engine is that exactly?
Okay, normally there would be a follow-up video or follow-up fork, but we want to tinker around just with this one for the sake of clarity. But you see the logic there. We're back at the loop where we was, and we can try it again. And
So
this
far
one
so
should
good.
loop us back right.
Is there
into the fork
anything else
again.
you'd like to know?
Okay, so we have endlessly looping fork right here. But suppose we don't want to do that, right? Suppose we want to track which video the player has already seen. And that's what variables are for. And that's what the box visited in the engine is for. So let's suppose we want to talk about this. We want to track the first answer. I love FMV games as much as I love donuts. We want to, somehow store the value or like store the information that our player visited. So first let's name our fork. It's always a good practice in Charles Engine to name your things, so you know you can point back to them, as we will see in the next tutorials, or just for the sake of, you know, being able to tell what's happening. Because like when you come back to your project like after a week, yeah, it's really handy, trust me. So let's call it fork1, for example, for simple. So we got fork1, and now I can create a new variable. I might have already prepared it, but like that's not the case here. So I can use this little handy plus sign next to the visited box, and if I click it, it will create a variable automatically, and it will name it after the ID of the fork, which is again very handy if you want to like search through a whole bunch of variables and so forth, because like projects, FMV projects especially, can get like super big very fast. So we've implemented this functionality that will help you to keep track of all your variables. So we have it here, and if we double click it, it will bring up the inspector view with the variable opened. And here comes the time to talk about the basic stuff that we can do with variables, the basic properties of them. So we have this variable. The first thing you need to keep in mind is persistence value. And there are basically three to choose from, but the profile is basically when you want to keep track of something that doesn't change with every scene. Like suppose you want to keep the information if this particular answer was chosen for the whole duration of the game. Even when somebody closes the game and then runs it again. So this is what profile is for. The game is kind of similar, but allows you to, you know, use different profiles, which is kind of an advanced thing we don't want to like delve now into. But the thing to keep in mind is in memory. In memory is think about it as a temporary variable, which will be active only as long as you're in the same scene. So you can use it like in one recurring interview, or like in a recurring encounter in your game, or something like that. You know, it erases itself or reverts back into default value every time you change a scene. But for this example, we want to keep the default profile persistence type, which will be like the one you'll be using most of the time. The default value is very simple. It's either false, the default value is false, or we can click it and so the default is true. Or we can comment it. You know, we can say hi to all FMV makers, which actually is true. We do say hi to all of you. But this is it. This is the basic thing of the basic Boolean variable. By Boolean, I mean it's like true or false. It has two states, and that suits perfectly for what we want to do. Because the Charles Games engine, if we return back to dialogues and to the dialogues component and we click edit, we have this visited box here, and the variable already was automatically inserted. And what it does is that once the player passes through the answer, it will flip it to true and keep it that way. So this way we will always know if somebody has passed through that answer. Mind you that it only does once, that it doesn't revert back, and if you put it there, it only flips once. Like if it flips once true, it's always true. It's like one-way street. So, you know, to check this out, we can, like, I will resize this window so you can see it more clearly. If I can play it, the engine also keeps the track of the variable for us. So
Hello.
it's supposed to be there, and the
How
engine
are
shows
you?
us by the three dots.
I've got your email.
Here in the video, now it jumps to this fork, and we want to select the answer, you know, or in order 0, like the first answer. And it's like a lot of FMV games as well. And
What?
Now,
Is that a
did you see
prank?
it? It switched
Goodbye.
to visited true. And you know, I can like
What?
go as many times
Is
as
that
I
a-
want, but it's still true. Like, you know, we know the player was there. And now there are funny things how to use this. You know, we can add conditions, which are the building blocks of, for example, our game Attentat 1942 or Svoboda 1945. We use them to control the flow of our interviews. And you very easily can add them when you're in the fork. I will again reorganize it a little so it's more clear. So let's suppose we want to work with this first answer, and we want to add a condition, and in order to do that I just click the C button here, which is C as condition, and I will have it here. Again, it's red, meaning it's empty, so we need to add some. So let's click edit to bring up the condition adder. And you know, we have some advanced features there, but the most of the time what you want to do is to click start, and it will bring up the first, you know, checkbox, or like not the checkbox, but like first box for you to put the variable you want to check in. So I will click either plus or the circle sign here, and I can select the variable we want. And if you remember, it was called fork1 variable. Okay, it's there. And we have fork1 0 variable here, and we need to choose, you know, what to do with it. So let's suppose we want to show this answer only once. And if you think about it, what we want to do is to check whether the player has already seen it, and if he or she did, then we don't want to display it. So, you know, if the variable is true, we don't want to display it, which in the logic of conditions would mean that the condition should be true, meaning that it would display the answer only if the variable is not true. Because if it would be true, then it would be visited, and we would not want the fork, you know, the fork road or like the answer to pop up. So now the default value is not, so it should be back there. You know, this sounds super convoluted, but I swear, once you get a grip on it, it's fairly easy, and like you can orient yourself very easily in it. And like the best way to show it is through example. So let's go into play mode and check our condition right there.
Hello.
Okay, visited false.
How are you?
Great, you're there.
Your
Arrange your
email.
email. Okay. And now I will click I love FMV games.
What?
We have, you know,
Is that a
visited
prank?
true. I can see the
Goodbye.
condition is false, and now we're back in the loop, and because the condition is false, meaning that the visited variable is true, it's no longer there, right? So this is our first condition in Charles Engine, and now like it's not that okay. Once you create like 2 or 3 conditions, you get a hold on it. It's not that simple to like really create very interactive like switching, shifting types of interviews. So this is the basic condition we are able to do in Charles Engine, like a simple true or false variable with a simple true or false checker condition. But for the second part of this tutorial, we want to try something different with numbers.